got YR250. For today's colouring book, I'm using the Day to Night colouring book by Bobbie Goods. I've also ordered the Spring Summer and the This and That colouring books, and I'm so excited for those to arrive soon because this was my first one and I've absolutely loved going through this one. Here's a quick little flip through of the book and what it looks like. I've already completed a few of the pages near the start. And it's super massive, really thick quality cardstock pages. They're quite large landscape scenes as well, so they do take a little bit longer than some of the smaller colouring books out there, but that's our book for the day. For the markers, I'm using my absolute favourites. These are Ohuhu markers and they've been my go-to since I first started colouring. If you've been thinking about treating yourself to a set, you can use the discount code on the screen to save 10% on your order, and also keep an eye out for some potential giveaways I'm hoping to do in the future as well. So I'll show you what one looks like. Of course, I pick a pink one. So this is what the markers look like. I have the brush and fine tip. So here's the brush tip and the fine tip for smaller details as well. Now that we've got our colouring tools ready, I just wanted to take a moment to show some love to our sweet community before we dive into today's page. Thank you for all your kind words. Today's comment of the video goes to this lovely bestie right here. Thank you for being a part of our cozy little colouring corner. I also thought it would be quite fun to do a new segment here. So each vlog is going to have a question of the video. For today's question, I wanted to know, how did you get into colouring? Was it something that you've always been interested in, or did you just recently discover it? So let me know in the comments down below, and I'll also be answering whilst I'm colouring. This is the page that had the most votes for the first video of April. It is such a cutesy scene with all the little flowers and the bunny and the little frog as well. This is such a great choice. It goes perfectly with the spring series that we're going to be doing at the moment. Okay, so now that we have our page picked out, it's time for my absolute favorite part of the whole process, and that's picking out a color palette. So if you know me, you already know that pink is going to be making an appearance some way, somehow. It just has to be in here. A little fact about me is that I could spend hours scrolling through Pinterest. That's where I usually find my inspo for any scenes and colors. So I'm gonna open up my tablet and we can start swatching some markers that fit the vibe. Now I'm kind of just matching some of the colours that I've chosen, and I'm trying to find what shade of purple would go best, and I think I'm leaning towards like viola and dark violet light, like that kind of purple shade. I think I'm gonna go with that and see how that looks. I'm just gonna find those two shades. I feel like this is the part that takes the longest, is actually finding the colour in a sea of other colours, because I actually started out with a much smaller set. My first set of Ohuhus was just a set of about 48. It was the 48 mid-tone set, and I got pretty used to just being versatile with those more colours. So it's been really nice having more options, but it can be a bit overwhelming. I don't know if this is too muted. This shade feels a little too muted. Maybe more Marvin Labella, that could be quite nice contrast. Yeah, that feels like a nicer shade. And I kind of write the shade numbers down and pop any colours I'm kind of sure I'm going to use into this little tin here. So this is a little mood board that I made on Pinterest. It's very floral. My main colours are like yellow, pink and purple. And there are like some little bunny rabbits in the main picture. So I've got some inspo for that. And then I just found some other cute little pictures and some ideas for the border that I might do in the sky as well. So this is what inspired it. And this is my final colour palette that I've planned out. I will still keep these little swatch cards next to me during the colouring process because this is sort of just like a starting point. While I'm colouring, I might realise that something else is a better fit. And to make things easier for myself, I always have my little pot here where I keep the swatched colours, and I also have like a little black liner pen when I'm drawing clothes on, and some acrylic markers. I might grab more if I decide to put some flowers on the grass, but for now I think this is perfect. So it's actually about an hour later now. I had a little lunch break, but we've got our page ready, our palette ready, and I've also got my little planned colour book here, which I'll be referring to as we go through the colouring process, and my Pinterest mood board as well. Now it's time to get into the fun part, the actual colouring. I'll be showing you the markers I'm using as we go, and I'll also answer our question of the video too. But mostly we're just going to chill and enjoy some soft lo-fi, some marker sounds, because the whole point of this is just for us to slow down and relax with some creative self-care. I'll bring you a little bit closer and we'll get started. Okay, so I usually start my pages by trying to think about where the light is coming from, and I also just love the look of a light glow, so you probably notice it in a lot of my pages. So I'm gonna have the light coming through from the lower half of the sky. This is usually a little bit easier sometimes if there's like a sun or like a lamp or some obvious light source in the picture. I think I'm gonna go with either this really light shade or a slightly deeper and darker shade. I'm not sure yet, but I think I'll just start off with a light shade and see how I feel. If I don't like it, I'll just layer the dark shade on top. So for our lightest shade, this is YO30 Lemon Chiffon. So I'm just starting with the trees, and I think I'm gonna have the light kind of coming onto that way and then a little bit that way, if that makes sense. And then anything more in the middle, I think it's kind of just gonna get like an all-around light glow. But to be honest, this doesn't have to be like super accurate. Honestly, whatever looks or feels good to you will be fine. Okay, I think that looks good. I might go in with a slightly darker yellow. I think YO50. Yeah, I'll go with YO50 actually. That could be a more slight gradient. So I'll just kind of add it as the next layer, just under where I've, just sort of next to where I've already added the other light glow. This just makes it more gradual. Okay, I think that's now onto this little character. I want her to be wearing some clothes. The best way I found to do this is to draw the colour of the clothes on their own first, and then add on the whatever shade the little bear is going to be, and then use a little black marker like this to draw the outlines, because I found whenever I used to draw the outlines first, it ends up kind of smudging and bleeding into each other. So I think for this little teddy, we're doing like a little shorts and top two-piece, and I wanted it to be yellow. I'll probably do it the more deeper yellow that I've got here, which is Y3. So I'm gonna grab that barium yellow. Here it is. And I'm gonna outline where the clothes will be. Go across. So those are the shorts. And then for the top, I have a little gap. And then just a little bit for the neckline. The Bobbie Goods books are quite thick, so sometimes you might need to layer a colour down twice for it to show up, because it does absorb the markers quite a lot compared to like more smaller or like thinner paged colouring books. Okay, so for the little bear character, I'm gonna use these three colours here. I've got YR250 for the lighter shade, and then YR260 for the mid shade, and then YR2 for the deeper shadows around. So I'm going to start with the lighter shade, which is YR250, and kind of just do that everywhere and blend it with the where we've got the light reflections coming through. Normally I try not to lift the brush too much, but because I am going to go down and do a second layer, that's okay for this one. So that's the first. Oh, I almost forgot the little belly area here. Let's go into it. Oh, I think I've like taken too much off the top of actually. Okay, one way I can fix that is once I've done all of that, I can use this acrylic marker on top to kind of fix that, where I've taken too much of the top off. And then I'm going to take the last dark shade, which is YR2, and just anywhere where I think would be a bit more darker. This actually might be too dark, but we'll make it work. The key is to just keep blending with the lighter shades once you've put like a darker shade down. So this would be a bit shadowed. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab the lightest shade again. And, oh, that was not the light shade, that was the mid shade, but that's okay, I think that's fine. I'm just layering the mid shade over where we've added the darker shade. And then finally the lighter shade again, and just blend everything together. Perfect. And then over the belly, I think where I'm gonna keep a little strip. I'll just keep it like that. And like I said before, I'm gonna use this yellow colour from Arctic. It's just an acrylic marker in the shade T112. And I hope it's a good shade match, but it might not be. I feel like I took too much away from the top here, so I'm just adding it back on. Maybe just like adding a little detail where this is like a band or something around endpoints. Yeah, that's pretty cute. And then I'm gonna use this little fine line marker to add the dark lines to make it look like it's part of the colouring page. So here's our little character so far. It's looking so cute. And then for some cute extra little details, we'll add just some tiny eyelashes. So cute. There we go. And also a little bow. So I'm gonna, I don't know if I should do a yellow or a white bow. This might be too yellow. Maybe I'll do a white bow. So we've got T001. Arctic's acrylic marker again, and oh, I forgot to actually shake the marker. Get rid of that, and then just add a little bow in the hair. There we go. So cute. Okay, and then up next, I'm gonna do this little rabbit and the cat. These are the colours that I've got picked up for that, so I just thought a simple like grey, but for the rabbit I'll keep the rabbit white, but I'll just add like a little grey outline. So for my greys, the lightest one I've got is CG00, which is cool grey number 2, and then I don't really know how to read some of the names of these markers, but for the darker grey, we've got BG050, which is cool grey number 5. So I'm going to start with the lighter cool grey and just do a slight outline around this bunny rabbit, because I'm going to keep the rabbit white for the most part. And then for our little cat, I'll keep some areas white and do some other areas more of a darker grey. I'm going to just start with the light grey first. And then I'll go in with the other darker shade. I have a bad habit of leaving my markers out once I've used them, but I should really just put them back in the pot when I'm not using them. Yep, so that's R21, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blush to all the characters on the cheeks. Ooh, and also for the little foot. I might need to use a slightly darker colour for this main character, but for now that's fine. And then for the little cat, there we go, and for the little bunny rabbit as well. And as for this little character, I might go in with R9, which is the slightly darker pink shade that we've got here, just to deepen the colour on the cheeks and the fur as well. So I'm going to go R9, which is this pastel rose colour. Next I'm going to do some of these flowers. So these were the shades of purple that I originally wrote down. I thought this one was a bit too light, so I ended up going for this one and this one. But I don't know if I'll still just use that as a base layer and then add some detailing with these two. Okay, so I've got the base shade down. I'm gonna go in with my second shade of purple, which is V030. And I think I'm gonna go in with little dots for this. I think that looks cute. And then for our darkest purple shade, we've got V270 Lobella. This is a lot darker, so I'm going to concentrate it at the bottom and then just do some sparse dots going out to the top. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And the next vibe of like flower colour I was going for was pink. I think I'll do like this trio of pinks and kind of just interchange as I go around. I'll do the little fuzzy flowers that we've got there, going on there, more of that pink, and then I'll do the other flowers, more of that pink. So I'll grab R21 and R120. So starting with R21, I'm doing these like little fuzzy flowers. I'm not like a flower expert, so I don't actually know the names for some of these. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to answer our question of the video. So to answer our question of the video, which was basically how did you get into colouring? Was it something you've always done, or did you recently discover it? For me, I've always had like quite a creative background. So growing up, ever since I was like maybe 5 or 7, I've always been into like doing drawings, and I think most people growing up probably were into colouring. So that's how I got started with it, and then I kind of just carried on being quite creative as I grew older, and I always did some sort of art in some sort of form. So when I was like a preteen, I was really into doing like portrait drawings. I'm just using the darker shade R120 to add some texture to those flowers. Really into doing portraits, and it was just like with normal pen to paper media, so that's what I was doing when I was like in my preteens. And then around like 15, my sister got an iPad and I started doing like digital art on there. It was so bad when it first started out, but eventually I got better and better at it. So I was still doing portraits, and then when I got to my late teens, I was really into fashion. So I started doing fashion illustrations on the iPad. I actually got paid to work with some brands doing that, and that was really fun for me. I enjoyed doing that. And then I went away to uni, and I think that's when I hit like my creative rut. Fast forward to last year, around like September time, that's when I started drawing again. And this time I was doing more like cutesy little drawings. I don't know like what style to compare them to, but they were just very like cutesy style. And then towards the end of last year on like TikTok and Instagram, I was just seeing a lot of people doing colouring, and it looked so peaceful and so calming. So I got my first colouring book and I started posting videos of me colouring some pages in, and that's how we got to today. So yeah, that's a bit about me and how I got started with this. Okay, so looking at this, I might add a bit of orange. I'm gonna just look at my card and see what I think is missing from here. I think this shade of orange might actually go well with the pink and the purple, so I might add that on. Another shade is like these more vibrant ones. So this is YR190. I think that is fine. I might grab Y10 as well to be safe. So I'm gonna grab those two. It's quite a very vibrant orange, and this is YR190. I might go with this one. I think it's leaning towards what I want to do. I'm gonna go over some of the flowers that they're orange instead of pink. Okay, I think that looks a lot more balanced. I'm gonna grab my white acrylic marker from Artix again. I think I'll make the center of these flowers a little bit lighter. So up next, I'm gonna add my base for the grass. I'm gonna use the lightest shade here, which is GY4, and I also have GY5 and G190 for some of the darker areas. So I'm just gonna grab these three and get started on just doing all the grass in GY4. So I'm gonna start with this one first, which is yellow-green. For larger areas, it's probably easier to go in circles because I feel like it helps you, and also if you hold the marker further away, it helps you get through a larger portion of the page much quicker, so we can avoid it drying and getting all streaky. But I'm still not good at doing this because even now I've got myself in a predicament where this might end up being streaky, but that's okay because I think this is going to be a shadowed area anyway. Nearly forgot this bit here. So this is what we have with the grass. It's got some patchy areas, but I think that's fine for grass anyway. And I'm gonna start adding just strips where like this tree would shadow here, under this character, and under this tree if it's shadowed, under this stump, and just going this way a little bit. I'll just do like a double layer from this marker. And then wherever there's like little plants on their own, that will be also a little bit darker, and this just helps me to remember where to put the slightly darker areas when we go in with the second colour. The second colour we've got is GY5, and here it is. I'm not sure if I should do like blades of grass or the more like dotted effect. I might do the dotted effect for the bush, but maybe do blades of grass down here, but I don't know. I might start with like little blades where there's more like little plant growths, and then see how I'm feeling, because I don't want to make this page super detailed. Just a vibe, you know? Okay, so I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this, because I do want this area here, out there, and there to look a bit darker. I might just do, yeah, I might just do the little dots. I think it's the quickest way to add depth. So I'm just gonna do some dots around the areas that would be in the shadow. So I think this is a good base for our grass. I'll probably just make the dots a bit more sparse in areas where we get close to the lighter zones. I think this is looking good so far. I'm going to go with the darker green, which is G190. And just to add some extra depth in, there is a deep olive green, which I think I'm gonna add, and also I need a green for the frog, so I think I'll do like maybe a green shadow, a leaf green for the frog. So I'm gonna grab that, and I also realized for this tree I might do more of like a forest green, so I'm gonna grab those three. So deep olive green, forest green, and maybe shadow green. So that's GY43, G420, BG7, forestry. There we go. GY43, just to add a little bit extra depth into the grass. Okay, I think the grass is looking really, really good. So I'm not going to do too much extra to it. The most is probably just taking that olive green and just doing one last tap around the areas where I want it to really look like it's in the shade. I don't know if these other areas look too empty, so to balance that I'll use GY5 just to make sure they don't look too empty, but I'm still gonna try and keep them not too textured. Yeah, I think that's looking good. Okay, and then in terms of like the flower stems and leaves, I'm not sure. I guess I'm already holding GUI 5, so I will just use that and then add some depth. Oh, I am realizing I missed out a flower up there, so I'm gonna do that in a second. And then to add some depth to the leaves, we'll do olive green, which is G190. And then just to help keep things standing out, I'm gonna grab that white acrylic marker again and just add it on some of the stems. Okay, now onto some of the wood. I'm gonna grab Y3 again. So I've got Y3 here. And I'm just going to add it on some of the tree stump areas. Okay, maybe this bit. I'm also going to take my browns for the trees. YR2, YR5, and then I don't know how dark I want to go. So I'll see if I'll use these or not. I'm just gonna grab all 4 of these. Okay, so these are the 2 shades that I'm definitely using. I'm gonna start with YR2 and then blend it with YR5. And another colour I actually forgot to grab, YR260. Same over here, and then going with the YR2. I'm just gonna blend this out with YR260 a bit more. I think that's fine. Maybe a bit more here as well. And here. Perfect. And then I'm gonna grab terracotta, which is YR5. And add in the darker side of the trees and tree stumps. So I'm gonna leave room to blend between the 2 markers. There's so many little things I'm now seeing as I'm doing. I didn't even notice this little bird when I first started. I feel like I have a tendency sometimes where I leave little details just because I haven't noticed them. So I do have a few like colouring pages where some areas are just white because they're either like really small and I didn't notice them, or I just forgot to go back and colour them in. Okay. I am doing a bit of a messy job because I know I'm going to go back in and blend. So I'm going to grab YR2 again. And then I'm going to go back with YR5 and blend it in again. That's what our trees are looking like. I'm going to add just a little bit of depth with E060 like mahogany. And then I think I'll pretty much be done with the trees. Perfect. This is looking really good so far. I'm really happy with the trees, so I'm gonna put the browns away. I think towards the end I'll double check if I want to add any extra depth with the darkest brown, but for now I think it looks pretty balanced. But I don't know, should I might test it out slightly. This is Y12. I'm actually pretty happy with this, so I'll just add it a little strip near the darkest areas. Okay, I think I'll let this be a bit of a harsher shadow so I won't blend it out. I'll just go over it again. I think that looks pretty good. There we go. And let me find a red for the mushrooms. I might do coral red. I'll add some white dots to the mushrooms. Perfect. And now we've got the trees, the bush, the sky left. I'll probably do... I was really tempted to do like a cherry blossom tree, but I don't know if I will. I've never actually done one before, so I'm not sure if I will. Let me do the bush and the tree, then I'll see what to do. UI4, UI5 as well. I'm already starting to get tired. I feel like doing Bobbie Goods pages like tires me out sometimes because they're so massive. But I do love the details and the intricacy on them. And I prefer to do like my colouring, oh my gosh. I just accidentally went on the border. I prefer to do my colouring like in one sitting. But I know some people do it across a number of days. I'll keep the bush pretty simple. To be fair, there is so much green on the page. I think I will do this as a cherry blossom tree. So what else? I've got G5. And I'm just gonna add that is looking very busy, to be fair. I might blend it out a bit with G14 so it doesn't look as textured. Okay, I think that looks better. Okay, I'm gonna leave that at that so it doesn't get too crowded. And then for the big tree, I think I'll do a darker green just so it has a bit more contrast. I'm gonna go in with BG7. It's like a forest green. It has almost like a bluey-ness to it. Okay, perfect. There is a little white dot there. I'm gonna leave that to dry for a little bit. These are the colors I'm thinking of using. I'm gonna start with that as a base and then add these as dots and then this as like darker dots, but we'll honestly see how it turns out. So next is R9. This actually looks quite pretty as well, so it just doesn't look too textured. And then next is R120. Lastly, we have our like really vivid pink. I think this is the right way to go. If not, I will try and change it. So I'm gonna yeah, I think this is the right way to go. Like I said, pink would find some way of making it on this page. And I might do some like pink outline on the flowers too. Okay, I think this one as well. So we've got the bird and the butterfly. I think based on this page, a color that will really make it pop is probably some kind of like bright blue. Yeah, I think next to the pink, like either forest blue or Tahitian blue, or even like robin's egg, which is like softer color. Okay, I have an idea. I'll do forest blue and then pastel blue as well. Okay, so that's our base layer for the butterflies, and then using PB7. Oops, yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna make it look like a butterfly. So I'm gonna grab the black fine liner and kind of trace it around the wing area. I might leave it at that, but I know they have like a little pattern. I'm gonna try. Okay, that's not what I was thinking, but that's fine. And then I'm gonna add like little dots around the edges. I might let that dry first actually, so let me let that dry and we'll get up onto the sky and the border, and then I'll add the white details. Okay, for the sky and the border, I was thinking of doing like a peachy pink. Let's start with YO30 actually, to show like the sunset first. And then we're gonna go into YR 110. I'm trying to do it whilst the colours are still wet so that they blend the best. I might just add a little bit of eyeliner, but I feel like this could end up being too dark. Let me just add it at the top. I think that's fine. Yeah, perfect. And I'll blend it into R21. Gorgeous. Okay. And then for the border, I will probably just use these 3 pinks. So let me just show you what we've got. So I'll start with this one on the inner side, and then in the middle, and then at the edge, and then just use that to blend the 2 colors together, if that makes sense. I do want to make the sky like all dreamy, so I'm gonna add like some sparkles. I think this is looking good. I'm gonna add some sparkles on the butterfly, and then do like a little trail. And we'll just add some cute little sparkles. I think that's like enough, and that looks really nice and dreamy as well. Okay, so we did it, guys. This is our end result, and honestly I'm really happy with how it turned out. I would give this maybe an 8 out of 10. I love how dreamy it looks, how the pinks look. My favorite part has to be the sky and the border, and also just like how the grass turned out and the flowers. I like basically everything. The only thing I would do differently if I had more energy was the bush. I think I kind of just rushed that to get that completed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and also don't forget to answer our question of the video, which is, how did you get into colouring? Or was it something that you've always loved, or did you recently just discover it? So for our next colouring session, we're diving into Cozy Cuties by Coco Wire. This is the page that received the 2nd highest votes, so we'll be doing this one next episode. But thank you so much for joining me today and colouring with me. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and colouring is something that always helps me feel calm. So I hope this colouring session was a little cozy escape for you.